Hello, hello. Oh, hang on. I'm just going to sort out my camera. There we go. You get an insight into the mess that is this room. Let me work out what I'm doing with my camera. This is me attempting to kind of come in early to fix the camera issue, only to just make it worse. And as you can see, I've got this lovely little stack of books that's sort of just here. Let me sort out my camera. Ba, ba, ba. Hello. Hiya. I'm just quickly sorting out my camera, so please ignore this while I just fiddle around and try and work out how on earth I do this, because I thought I could press another screen first that would allow me to do this without giving you an insight into just how messy this room is. Hello, Jem. Hiya. Please bear with. I am just trying to sort out my camera. That is not the button. Maybe we're stuck with this. It's not the worst thing if we are stuck with this setup, but there we go. I was also going to change shirt before this all happened, so there we go. Everything's going wonderfully, which bodes well for my set of predictions. I made a sort of set of predictions of what I thought it might be. I am fully sort of knowing that I am going to be wrong on so many of these. I've also seen that there are many spoilers around in the world at the moment, and so worth noting that some of you may already know the long list far sort of sooner than I do, and far sooner than the sort of real announcement. But there we go. That's the life, I guess. So we are here with this. We're kind of sizing up to having a big old announcement here. It's wild. The book, I mean, like people say with Christmas, it feels like it comes around sooner each year. But in this case, yeah, very much. It feels like we're right in the middle of kind of, I don't know. In my mind, it's sort of slightly later in the year, but I think also because we've had such a sunny summer here in the UK for once, ish, mostly just hot and then rainy. It kind of also feels like this should be later in the year. But also, hello everybody. Hi people who are joining. Hello. Great to see you all. I'm looking a hot mess because it's warm and I am sweaty and slightly disgusting. But here we are. this is the way life's going. But yes, we are soon to get our announcement of the booker for 2024, our long list. It's always that fun thing of, obviously a prize isn't everything, and sometimes the announcement is, it's a good way of learning about new books that are out there, but equally, there are many other books that might not be included in this. But I'm excited. I feel like this is a year, and especially with having managed to just about avoid all kind of spoilers, really. I think I heard one semi sort of spoiler and kind of quickly clicked away. Then I think as a result, I'm kind of, wanting to hide away and not really check anything else. But there are a few people with the whole leak thing. So I don't actually know who it is. I've heard that an author sort of leaked a couple of them on Goodreads, on like a group or something, and then there will be. And then I think from that, like a few other people sort of found, once they kind of knew that these things were live, because essentially I think the long list is selected about a week before the actual announcement. So I think there's been about a week where things have been largely kept under wraps and kind of hidden. But obviously some people, like publishers, will often be told a couple of days in advance just so they can prepare for an avalanche of having like 40 million new orders on their books. I'm overemphasizing. In my mind, this is the big event of the year, but actually, obviously it's big for publishers and particularly for small ones, but it's also, I kind of, in my mind, it's like 14 million copies get sold. It's like actually probably like a couple thousand, but still great for particularly small presses. Also, yes, hello everybody. I'm seeing people coming in. People's commitment to this, I'm loving. Like for me, it's like almost 2 p.m. in the UK. I have just sort of sort of booked out a bit of time out of my work day that I'm going to catch up on later. But for some people, some of you, this is like the morning or the evening. Well played to all of you. And yeah, oh, okay, yeah. So I think I'm guessing, Mark, when you talk about Scott from Gunpowder, that I think that was talking about some of the potential leaks, I think, as well. But who knows? I think in previous years there have been some almost that weren't necessarily true. I think they were just sort of some very excited publishers or whatever, or people sort of slightly misconstruing some things that have been said. I might also try and turn my laptop just because I'm really annoyed by myself at just that, like my shirt's hanging up there. But yeah, I think that there have been some bits in the past where people have sort of mentioned leaks, and then it's been, yeah, a publisher kind of being like, oh yeah, we submitted this book, and people hearing that as this book is definitely on the list. But yeah, there we go. Jem, I love that you booked the afternoon off work. That's amazing. Like, fair play. I've basically almost done that to myself by just sort of starting work early today and then having a bit of time this evening where I'm going to catch up. So I've sort of just squidged it into a work day, but luckily it's a day without very many meetings, so I can kind of be a bit flexible on that. But yeah, oh, interesting. Okay, I'm seeing. Yeah, so I am actually at home for once, hence the lawn, well, not laundry, but hence my shirt's hanging up in a very haphazard fashion that I'm going to try and block out. Oh, I'm intrigued by this. Yeah, so some people saying in the chat that books are sort of showing on Amazon, but with the Booker sticker already on it. I'm intrigued by what that might be, because for me, you know, I guess that's one of those things where if it was on something like part of a series, you know, so if, for example, when The Mirror and the Light came out, the Booker symbol was on it because of Hilary Mantel's other two wins, that feels like it would make a bit more sense almost. But yeah, if they're literally showing with that, that's a bit, somebody's misunderstood some time frames there. I'm so glad to see so many of you. This is lovely. Hello, everyone. Sounds like people are having a good summer sort of restful kind of time. Hello, Ralph. Sounds great that you're just sat in the garden. That's a beautiful way of doing this. From the US Virgin Islands, I feel like you are probably the sort of most remote who is on this chat. So hello. From Northern Ireland as well. And yeah, Jacqueline, you're absolutely right. It's about 29 degrees or so. I will. I was going to change into another shirt, but I was like screwed up at the beginning with trying to get. I thought by going live I would have one more screen where I could change my camera before I went live. Hence why I'm looking down at my laptop as opposed to like up at my like webcam there. But yeah, it is like 29 degrees or thereabouts here. So actually me wearing a red shirt is not the worst thing, because it maybe takes away from how pink I actually am right now. I'm going to look horrendous. I'm also really glad that this is not slightly later in the day, because the room I'm in over here, you don't need this full tour of this room, but there isn't currently a curtain here. Which means that from about 3 to 4 p.m. it's just sunlight in my face. So maybe that'll happen towards the time the end of this stream, but for now we're fine. Alyssa, I love that we're that you were just walking your dogs with this on the background. Yes, Kieran, this is MTV Cribs. Let me show you more around this. There was somebody recently who who commented on one of my videos being like, oh, I'd love to have like a bookshelf tour. And I'm like, as much as I love the idea, currently I'd be like, okay, so there's my tilted axis press. Oh, there we go. Tilted axis press sort of set of books. There's miscellaneous up top, and there's sort of some other stuff in this sort of shelf thing here. And sort of some indie presses just here, like mostly Incandescent and 3x Rebel. But then the rest of it is just like, here is a table, here are some random books on a floor. Like it wouldn't be that much of a sort of good set of things to have a little look. But there we go. We're not getting the floor stacks today, because also you'll then have to see the absolute crap that's all around this room as well, and have a reputation to uphold. But yeah, Glenda the unicorn absolutely is going to be present. Hello, hello, Joan as well. Hey, and then yes, Disco King. Yeah, absolutely. So I've just this is less my predictions and more some eligible books that I own that I've just sort of kept near me, just out of potentials essentially. So I've got a few here. This isn't some of these were on my predictions as well, or hopes rather, but also. Uh, yeah, just some other things. And oh my god, Kieran, I think you're right. I think Glenda, this unicorn, oh no, hang on just a sec. There we go. Is about 3 years old now. It was from a live stream, also a video that Kieran, lovely Ben over at Dream Antidote, and I did, which involved painting this gorgeous beauty. And she's wonderful. But I think that was 3 years ago. It was definitely lockdown. I think we'd lost our mind as well. You say one person's crap is another person's treasure. There is a lot of just like stuff. Like I live in a house with somebody who is a hoarder, so there is a lot of stuff in this room that is also not mine. But anyway, but yes. So the pile of books that I have here, some of them are ones that I was just hoping for, and other ones are just eligible books that I own. I don't think I own any others that are actually eligible, but here we go. So. Praiseworthy by Alexis Wright is my kind of go-to. This is the one that I'm most gunning for. If this is not on the list, I will be very surprised. If it is on the list, if this is on the list, I almost don't care about the other 12 because this is the one that I'm really gunning for. I think this is fabulous, and I think it deserves the world. And it's already been on a lot of prizes. Prize lists, and won a couple, but I still think it has a little bit more to go. I keep on getting really confused by the by the sort of slightly inverse, like flipped screen thing of like being like, let me put this thing over here. This is not the right area. I need to go over here to block out my set of shirts. Yeah. Also, the announcement, Rudy. Yes, it will be at 2:00. So we've got about 7 minutes. Yeah, I get why this is a scary book in many ways. I think it's a lot more readable than it seems. I think it's just this is a bad comparison in some ways, but something like Duck's Newburyport, which is even longer, I really loved, but I had to take in phases and like really spread it out. And the same with Praiseworthy. I think I could only ever read like sort of 40, 50 pages in a go because it's so dense, and well, dense in some way. It's more that it kind of creates its own language and sort of flows and does something quite special. And so I think, yeah, this is the one I'm gunning for. If it doesn't get on the long list, I will be a bit disappointed because I think this is the time. And also an Australian author being on the list would be a lovely thing for once. The other ones I've got here, let me just do a couple now. So I've got Ghost Mountain by Ronan Hessian, which I would love to see on it. I think it's more of an outside chance maybe, but I would love to see it. Same for Hagstone by Sinead Gleason, which I love. But I think, I don't know. There are lots of really interesting books by women talking about remote islands that have come out this year. I think like Whalefall, what was the other one I was reading the other day? Quite a few good like little islandy books. So I don't know, maybe it'll lose out because of that. But also, yeah, Amma by Saray De Silva, I would love to see on there as well. Yes, and there's just a few others that I've just sort of put on here, like I've just collected from my room. I'm trying to get rid of books. I don't know if you can tell. I have far too many still. Cahokia Jazz by Frances Bufford, which I mostly liked, but we will see. Hans Smith's Portraits at the Palace of Creativity and Wrecking, I've not read yet, but I just think would be, like, from what I see, is like a weird, experimental, fun option. And then ones like Mike McCormack's This Plague of Souls, which I really loved, and he's been longlisted before rather, and Spent Light by Laura Powson, which I've also not read yet, but just sounds wild and kind of like a weird non-fiction fiction merge kind of thing. But yeah, we shall see. So just catching up with comments. I love the idea of Vanna White doing this. Can you imagine? I think I kind of book prizes tend not to have as well. Yeah, they've got some glitz and glam. There's the kind of the dinner that goes alongside the winner. the winner announcement. But part of me just feels like it would be great to have like a proper like 80s old school kind of TV show thing of like somebody in like a glamorous gown walking down and being like, you know, very sort of like dramatic hand gestures to do. I'm volunteering myself for this. You provide the gown, I'm coming down. I'm doing this. Let's go through the rest of these comments. So some love for Ducks New Report, or rather not, but that's fair. Demon Copperhead. Yeah, it's still kind of weird, isn't it, that last year was sort of really like the year for Demon Copperhead being on pretty much every list going, and it never quite made the Booker. So yeah, I feel like Praiseworthy's maybe having that kind of year as well, and I don't know what that bodes for the Booker. And then yeah, Richard Powers' new book would be great. I'm not sure if it's eligible either. I think it might come out just after this. There are quite a few big books. I think Garth Greenwell and Alan Hollinghurst both have books as well, but I think most of them are out in October. I might be wrong on some of those. But yeah, there we go. Blackout, I'm seeing in the comments, I would love to see on this list. That was one of my personal choices. I think it's a great book. I think it also is kind of a bit of a weird and wonderful thing as well. So yeah, I hadn't realized you provide the gown, I'm coming down actually rhymed. So yeah, well done to me. I've got a little I've got a tagline. Hi Caleb. And yeah, this is an interesting set of things. So yeah, Maps of Our Spectacular Bodies. Interesting one, because I really loved it when I read it. And then later by the end of the year, I wasn't really thinking about it as much. So sometimes I wonder if there are books like that have a real buzz when you first read them. And in some ways, sometimes the Booker weeds those out because maybe by the time you've read 40 other books after it, that book doesn't feel quite as new or special. But I really loved it when I read it. And I think I loved the pace of it. Hadn't really thought a great deal about it too much either. Oh god, sorry, I've just been nattering away. We're literally 2 minutes away. There we go. In my mind, I think because I thought I'd started the list. I'd started it by about like at 2:30 instead of 1:45. So in my mind, I'm like, we still got more time to chat and whatever. So basically, keep an eye out for the Booker to sort of spontaneously do it. Oh, hang on. Apparently, it's already on the website. Sorry, I'm now seeing. Let me have a look. Right, pulling up the Booker website as we speak. Have they just released it a couple of minutes early? Are they trying to jump the gun here? Let's see. This would be nice if it's a list, because what happened in previous years was that there was just a video that went out, and so I basically my live stream last year was me just being like, hang on one sec, there was a book, I think it's called the blah, blah, blah. And I think just by the time I'd just about read the title, it was off. Oh, here we go. Oh, it's all on. Okay, so we have a full list. Oh, and I've read some of them. This is fun. Okay, so we have Enlightenment by Sarah Perry. It's right at the on their website. Oh, this is fun. I've actually read a few more than I thought I would have. So Enlightenment by Sarah Perry. We have Charlotte Wood with Stoneyard Devotional, which I don't think I've heard of. My Friends by Hisham Matar, which I've read and really enjoyed. The Safekeep by Yael van der Wooden, which I'm actually about sort of an hour away from finishing at the moment. Creation Lake by Rachel Kushner. Percival Everett's James, perfect. Very glad to see this. Orbital by Samantha Harvey, one that I think I predicted but was sort of unsure about, but very, very glad to see it there. Claire Massoud's This Strange Eventful History, Held by Anne Michaels. That's interesting, because that's, one that I read a bit ago and I enjoyed but didn't really think about much afterwards. So, Headshot by Rita Bullwinkle. I've seen this book kind of float around a bit. It seems like an interesting one. Wild Houses by Colin Barrett, which actually I was going to start reading soon, so that's very good timing. Playground by Richard Powers. You were right, Ben. There it is. And Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange. There we go. We have a list. I'm going to try and do some very quick background sort of analysis. Here we go. Here's the link there in case people need it. But oh my gosh, like Praiseworthy is not a hit. Come on. One book. I'm very glad for Percival Everett's James. That's probably Percival Everett's James and My Friends by Hisham Matar were the two that I'd probably have up there outside of the other books, outside of Praiseworthy. but this is wild. This is also a list that really not that I expected. I think a decent amount of women from what I can see as well. Looks like maybe 8 women. So that's good at least, because sometimes there's a fear when you see a long list of like, is this going to contain any is this going to be a nice mixed list? Is this going to be varied? I'm now quickly going through their website to see if there's anything in here about some of, because they sometimes do a stat breakdown. Here we go. 13 things you need to know about. Because sometimes they do a breakdown for you, which is very easy. So fun times. This is interesting. So yeah, they're talking about a lot of these books are about. There's a section on their website that's just like, who am I? Where am I? Very good question, Booker. They're talking about how many of the books are about exile, displacement, identity, and belonging. Cheery list. And Samantha Harvey's Orbital being the shortest book on this list. And My Friends being the longest at 456 pages, which actually is not super long given books in the Booker Prize history. Okay, so 6 American writers, that's pretty high. 6 Americans. Interesting. This is a wild. Yeah, I think a lot of these are ones that are books that I don't think I actually would have ever known about much before. Fun times. Okay. Well, there we go. We are here. Let's see what people are saying in the chat. Sorry, I got really distracted by the website there for a second. So it seems like some of the, so Scott's sort of the things video apparently is right. Marta, that's a really good point. I can't believe Marta's not on there actually. Wandering Stars, which is one that I reserved from the library months ago, and it's still yet to come to me. Richard Powers, yeah. So just reading your comments. So Stoneyard Devotional, not one I don't think I'd really heard about it. Let's see. Enlightenment is a weird selection. Blackouts. Yeah, I can't believe that one's not there. But there is an Australian. Who's the Australian? Who does it say who the Australian is? There's a picture of it saying return to Oz. Oh, so Charlotte Wood, I think, is the Australian for this year. Okay, so we've got an Australian at least. I love that. Yeah, so I think you're right, Happy Knitter. I think James is probably a good front runner right from the jump. I think it's a very good book. Held is the worst thing I've read in a minute. Headshot and James are okay from Disco King. Yeah, Held I enjoyed, but towards the end of it, I sort of like it finished and I was like, okay. But yeah, the Safekeep, Jennifer Lopez books. I'm reading Safekeep at the moment. I'm a bit lukewarm about it. I'm mostly enjoying it, but I don't really understand so far how the 3 parts connect. Let's see what happens when I finish the last sort of 40, 50 pages or whatever of it. But yeah, interesting to see a Dutch author writing in English being on the list. There we go. Let's see. Wandering Stars seems to be one that a few people like. Glorious Exploits. That's a really good point. That's one that lots of people have been talking about. And yeah, isn't here. Happy Knitter. I love this. Hope you love rats if you're reading Stoneyard. Read it last month and can't remember anything about it except for the rats. Great. There we go. Yeah, the audio of Wild Houses, literally about 15 minutes before I went live, my audiobook for Wild Houses came through, because basically I got a sort of NetGalley arc for it ages ago and hadn't read it, and then I was like, fine, the only way I'm going to do this is if I've got an audiobook for it. So I looked for an audiobook, and eventually it just came through, and I'm like, oh well, accidentally great timing, so that's fab. Yeah, that's a good point. Chigozi Obioma, Charlotte mentioned. That's a good point. He's not got his 3 for 3. Bless him. Yeah, the Disco King, Charlotte Wood being a Booker nomination before Alexis Wright. It does feel strange. I'm still going to just like defend this to the hill as a book. I don't get the lack of inclusion for praiseworthy, I will say. I mean, I've not read many of the books on this list, but this is easily one of my books of the year. So there we go. Yeah, a few people talking about the fact that like no African authors, at least that I can see either. Yeah. No Cusk as well. Yeah, good point. So Rachel Cusk is one that is like she's had I mean, they think she's only been longlisted once, if I remember correctly. But it's sort of such a sort of prize celebrated author, like a very critically acclaimed author. So there we go. Doom today, are we rioting or celebrating? Who are we rioting or celebrating? Let me look back at this list. Are we? I think I'm cautiously optimistic. There we go. Just looking at this set of 13, I think some good books in there. Orbital I did enjoy. Of the ones I've read, I did enjoy them mostly, I think. And Michael's Held I was a bit more lukewarm about. But okay. Disco King, Sally Rooney, back to the Shadow Realm with you. Firstly, thank you for the Yu-Gi-Oh reference. Secondly, yeah, that's a good point. Sally Rooney's sort of that big, yeah. Oh yeah, no Rachel Cusk, but there is Rachel Kushner. Is that Rachel Cusk in disguise? I'll leave that to your imagination. But yeah, James seems to be the big one. Jacqueline makes a really good point. Only one Irish book. Actually, who is the Irish author in this list? Am I being really slow on who that is? But yeah, weird to see only one Irish author, particularly given that last year was just what, like 5 or 6 Irish authors on the long list. I think British authors do make up a sort of minority, or at least not a big number, because I think it's 6 US authors are on this. From a quick glance, I don't know where a few of these people are from. I think Samantha Harvey is British. This is where I find out she's Irish, and it's deeply wrong. But yeah, I think British authors, I think, would only make up about 3, maybe 4 of this list. It's interesting seeing a few people who have sort of, yeah, James seems to be the one that most people have read and or enjoyed. Damien saying, seems like the most mainstream list in a long time. A lot of books are already on my radar, which is simultaneously nice and a bummer. Yeah, sometimes I kind of hope that the list is like 10 I've read and 3 I've not, just so there's a bit of variety. In this one, I don't know how many I've read, actually. I think 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I've read 4, and I'm about to finish the 5th, which is not bad innings, actually. But still, okay. Well, here we go. Right up, ready for another year of this. So I think I'm going to sort of, I'll sort of at some point need to sort of sit and kind of like sort of sit with some of these and kind of work out how. And often, you know, sometimes people will say something about a long list, and it's only really once you've read most of them that you kind of get a proper feel for it, or when the short list comes. So sometimes, I think last year, I wasn't a massive fan of the long list as a whole, but actually by the time we got to the short list, I mostly liked it, because I think it was mostly the right 6 books, I think, on that list, although some I didn't really like as much. Oh, is Wild Houses the only Irish one? Okay, interesting. Yeah, so this is interesting. I'm intrigued by this. The more I look at this list, it kind of almost doesn't feel real. I think because I always gear up to it every year, and I'm like, okay, yeah, and it's going to be this big dramatic thing, and then it's 13 books. It's like, this is not the Super Bowl, although I suppose it is the Super Bowl of books, or literary fiction published in the UK, which is a bit more of a niche. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so yeah, a few people. I mean, intrigued. How many of these have you read so far? So Louise is saying Louise has read 1 so far. Is saying that they've read 6, which is great. I also feel quite lucky. I own a couple of them, or have easy access to a few of them, which has made life simpler. What are we feeling about this? I mean, again, not to judge all of it with not to judge all of it, having only read 4 and almost 5 of them, but I'm intrigued by this list. What a thing! What an interesting set of things. Yeah, Joseph, I think that sums it up for me, actually. So yeah, slightly disappointed that I know every author's name. I think that's a really good point. Sometimes it's quite cool when it's an author you've completely never heard of. I wonder. I like, actually, yeah. Just before I go on to that, I like Ruthie Less' comment there that only read 2, lots of joy ahead. Really nice to kind of think about. Like that as a kind of way of like, oh, discovery, like this is going to be an exciting thing. But I'm intrigued because, yeah, quite a few authors whose names I know already, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it's good to have some good big heavy hitters in there. I wonder, yeah, how many small presses. I get the feeling Headshot by Rita Bullwinkle is a smaller press. I don't know. It just looks like it would be. I think, yeah. So just glaring at a picture here. Fab. Yeah, and actually, of the ones I've read, that's a point, kind of in terms of star rating. So My Friends, I also gave, 5 stars too. Same for James. Held, I think I gave 4. It was like between a 3 and a 4 for me. Orbital, I gave a 4 to. Safekeep, I've not finished reading yet, but that will probably be a 3 or 4. Creation Lake. Ooh, which one's Creation Lake? Because apparently one of them is only out in September. I think Ben was just saying there. But yeah, I love this. Aims for Books. Just looked up Playground and the cover is terrible. Could bode well following The Promise. It's just that is that. I don't hate the cover for The Promise, but actually looking back at it now, it sort of is a bit more generic. Here we go. Well, another year of fun. I'm a bit gutted for Praiseworthy. I think, like people have said, if the list is going for accessibility, I can kind of see that. And also, 5 judges have to roughly agree to put this in there. But I do think this is such a monumental achievement of writing. And the thing is, we know it was submitted. Like we know that the publisher submitted this book. So that feels almost more disappointing to know that it was read by the judges and they didn't like it enough to put it in the 13. But that said, I mean, there are lots of great books every year that are submitted, right? So I think the list could very easily be sort of 2025 and still have, still exclude lots of big hitters or really strong books. But yeah, I'm a bit confused at some of the exclusions there. I think more of them will hit me as we go. But kind of, yeah, as Jacqueline was saying there, like a few that Jacqueline was sure would be on the list. So Martyr, Wellness, The Alternatives, Hagstone. Interesting. So Anna, should I cancel my holds for Praiseworthy, Glorious Exploits, Road to the Country, Blessings, and Little Rot? I can't speak for all of them. Praiseworthy, I think, is worth it. I will continue to bang my drum about this. Glorious Exploits I've not read, but I've heard really good things from people who have loved it. Road to the Country, again, I'm really keen to read. Yeah, I also love this. Yeah, the longest book being 470 pages is kind of fun, actually. Like, given that there are some years where there's like a 600 or 700 page book and you're like, oh gosh, is this going to be worth it? I'm still doing my Booker shortlist project of reading all the shortlists from times gone by. And there's a really long, there's a 600 page book by, I think I've just hidden it in my room because I don't want to look at it anymore. Like Earthly Powers? No, what's it called? There's a long book. Well, I think it's William Golding, and the font is really tiny. And I'm like, ugh. This is my own fault as well, because I purposely read quite a lot of the shorter books earlier on in my Booker project, and now I'm left with all the longer ones. But here we go. Glorious Exploits is one I still very, very much want to read. I heard good things. Yeah, I think it was Ben Reads Good who told me all about it. So good to see Ben in the comments sort of talking about it. No, McCormack. That's a really good point. Cormac. Yeah. So Cormac McCarthy, I think. Flanagan as well. Yeah, Richard Flanagan. No, Kevin Barry. Yeah. The A Heart in Winter, I thought was really lovely. I thought it was really beautiful. And that's one that I'd seen a lot of people really putting up there as being a big one. No Comte Bean with Long Island, which I think is a shame because I thought it was really beautifully done as well. Yeah, I think Martyr is the one that I keep thinking about, apart from obviously praiseworthy. Yeah, Charlotte makes a really good point. No series books this year as well, which in some ways is a blessing because sometimes they're just like, oh, hey, here's the third book in a very long series. Why don't you check it out? And you're like, okay, come on now. There's as part of my book, a shortlist reading project. There is a book, part of a trilogy, I think called What's Bred in the Bone, and I think it's the third book in the trilogy. And I've got the trilogy in paperback, and it's about 800 pages for all three books. And I'm like, are you going to make? Do I have to read all three? I might just read the third and go from there. But yeah, Flanagan's Question 7, that's a good point. Yeah, it's sort of fiction, non-fiction. So sometimes those sort of books don't really get a good shout out. No Fitzcarraldo is a really good point. I mean, they've typically, I don't think they've had a book, as far as I remember, in the Longlist before. They've had it for the International, definitely, and for the women's non-fiction prize. But yeah, they've not. I think Wandering Stars might be part of a series. Aims for Books is pointing out. Thank you. And Yi-Un Lee's Ben Reed's good. The other authors Yi-Un Lee blurbed, sort of realizing that they're not on this. It must be interesting because I guess part of the book industry and kind of machine is that you will release a book. Sometimes it gets blurbed by big authors around you, but then sometimes by the time, not long after you've released it or whatever, that writer who blurbed you is also a judge for a prize, and so it's a bit tricky. Yeah, I think Nicola makes a really good point. The problem with the Booker is that all the pre-announcement speculation gives me a huge pile to add to my TBR. Yeah, I have lost count of how many books I read, kind of being like, well, this might be eligible. I'm gonna just read this a little bit and have a go. And as a result, I've just ended up with a lot of books that I've read that I'm like, well, okay. It's not on the list, and it was fine. Playground and Kushner are on NetGalley. Charlotte points out, yes, I got Playground very luckily from NetGalley a little bit ago. I'm now going to look for the Rachel Kushner as well. But this is very... I'm going to try and stay cautiously optimistic and excited about some of these books, because it'll be fun to see reactions to them. Again, very few people would have read all 13 so far. And so sometimes the judgment of them, it's kind of one of those things to wait for. Because I can't remember what it was a couple of years ago. There was definitely a list where I was a bit more lukewarm about it. And then by the time I'd read most of the long list, there were some really sort of special books that I hadn't anticipated at all. And that's always quite nice. So let's see. Yeah, there we go. Right. I'm probably about to go and start my thing of going and trying to find all of these books in my library. But thank you so much for joining me for this slight sort of 40 minutes of chaos and panic of me sort of tactically using part of my lunch break and part of sort of flexible working to do this reaction. Let's have a little look. May your reading be good and joyous. I hope you'll enjoy them. I'm going to probably do some videos about. Well, my aim is to read all of the long list and to do solo videos for all of them. I'm a little bit worried with Held by Anne Michaels because I'm not sure how much I can remember, because I think I read it either right at the end of last year or right at the beginning of this year. So good luck, Bob. But let's see. I think, a few people kind of pointing out it feels like a list of normal books. Actually, yeah, because sometimes the Booker has weird and wild, wonderful ones. So let's see. But good luck, everybody. Have a lovely time with the books. I will see you all very soon. Thank you for joining me on this, and hopefully we'll all love at least some of the books. We're never going to love all of them, but let's hope we at least find a good few that we're really passionate about. Oh, thank you, Daphne. That's very kind of you to wake up early to watch this. Have a wonderful time. Oh, sorry, just a very quick thing before I go. Caleb is saying you don't have to read There to enjoy Wandering Stars, but he would recommend it. So top tip there from Caleb. I think sometimes it's quite useful for some books to have that. Fab. Have a lovely time, everybody. Enjoy the long list. Enjoy trying to hunt them down from your local library and or NetGalley and or various other platforms. Take care and speak to you all soon. Bye-bye. And this is now where I try to struggle to find the button to leave the stream. Have a good and take care, everybody. Bye-bye.